And David Mercer, who's the founder of Mercer and Associates, he's joining us via satellite this morning, and we appreciate him being here also from D.C. Good to have you, David.
Thank you for having me, Harris.
And on set is Andrea Tinteros. She's a conservative columnist, AndreaTinteros.com, if you want to kibitz with her. She's also on Twitter, by the way. And David, I don't know if you are too, but she's got a really cool avatar on Twitter. You'll have to tell me about that picture. But welcome to you both.
I'll have to start following her.
Oh, please do. Wouldn't that be fun? You know, as we go forward here this morning, I want to start with the Bush-era tax cuts. And I was making the comment to Andrea as we were coming into the show this morning that, golly gee, it sounds like a good time for the president to start to walk this back. He's out of the country. The Bush-era tax cut, so-called name for the former president, is making rounds with a new book and getting more press than the present president. And then you have your surrogate, David Axelrod, perhaps putting more out there than you would want him to put out there. David, this is quicksand for this administration right now.
Well, let's walk this back a little to when the Bush tax were first legislated, and it was due to expire. That was law. That was put into the legislation. So anybody that expected it to go beyond that, that was their thinking, but it was not what was legislated. So it will be a cherry on top. It'll be a nice Christmas gift for everybody, provided they are extended. But nonetheless, they were due to expire, and we've had years knowing that they were due to expire. So yes, in a recession, we want to do what we can to lighten the load and the challenges that especially the American middle class are facing, and the squeeze. You know, more of them are moving into poverty levels, 7% growth in poverty, and we also know the gap in incomes has been widening over and over.
Okay.
So. Just let's put it in perspective.
All right, Andrea, what's your perspective?
Isn't it interesting the poverty level has only gone up drastically under President Obama? Front page of the New York Times a couple weeks ago. That was a really big story, considering he said he would take care of that when he came into office. But look, I think the White House eventually will come to a deal on this. Here's where I think there's going to be a big fight. John Boehner said he's not going to compromise at all. So I don't know if he's just bluffing or not.
Is that a change from what he said in September before the election?
That is a change.
Yeah,
that is a change.
It's a slight change. I mean, now he's saying absolutely not at all, compromise on making them permanent. I think eventually the White House is going to come to a position of, we'll extend them for maybe 3 to 5 years.
For everybody, do you think?
For everybody, but they'll move to make the middle class tax cuts permanent. And that's where I think they can get a deal. Republicans, though, there's a lot of Republicans, Harris, that don't want to vote on that individual package. So imagine that. Middle class tax cuts are permanent.
Why don't they want to?
Well, could you imagine trying to, in, say, 3 to 5 years, just vote on extending tax cuts for the rich? That'd be very hard to get through. But I think some of them are thinking, well, 3 to 5 years.
Better than zero.
Obama will be gone. And
well,
we can do more with it.
Not to mention the fact that, okay, so Democrats have just taken over, or rather have just lost control of the House. But it's a squeaky close majority now, closer than what it was in the Senate. And in 2 years, you have a third of the senators back up for re-election.
Right.
So, I mean, conceivably,
states.
as the president is up for re-election, you could see a situation where you have a switch in power in the Senate as well. David, let me ask you this, and I want to move on topics here. Not that tax cuts aren't important, but as I pointed out with our reporter, Doug Luzader, it's almost too late in the year now for many corporations to reverse gears. I mean, I don't think people realize, my parents used to run very small businesses, restaurants.
I think
it's tough to like not know what your tax rolls are going to be 6 weeks out from paycheck time. I mean, it's tough to do that.
Yeah, Harris, going back to what I said, any responsible corporation had to account for the fact that those tax cuts were expiring.
Absolutely.
And so, they are planning for the worst, and that they were going to end. And I agree with Andrea that I believe there's going to be some sort of deal.
You do?
With a temporary extension for those in the top 2% brackets or top 2 brackets, and for the middle class, making them permanent. I think that would be a very good outcome, and we can move beyond, as you said, to another topic of discussion.
And who is that a win for? Which party?
I think it's a win for the American middle class and working families is who I would chalk it up to.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's a win for for everybody, because everyone can get on their own talking points. The Democrats can say, see, we extended them for the middle class.
And we can move forward.
The downfall, though, Harris, is the left is going to be furious, as you saw with what happened yesterday when Axelrod talked to the Huffington Post. The thing about that is I believe you can diss your base. They have nowhere else to go. I think they're going to get over it by the time 2012 rolls around. But to your point...
Can you diss the president?
He's
not even in the country. I mean, look, I don't think that David Axelrod went off the farm there and he didn't tell Mr. Obama what he was going to be doing. But golly gee, you're on Air Force One and you get the call that David Axelrod is just giving away your tax cuts.
I think it's a matter of everybody staking out their ground and their positions leading up to what will be negotiations and an eventual vote on the tax cuts.
Hang on,
all right, last word on this.
I don't think that Axelrod said anything different than the president said. I really don't.
Why did it sound so strongly? Because you're right, the White House said, oh, this isn't new. Well, then how come it sounded so new?
They're furious. I think they're getting closer to a deal. But to your point about small businesses, I have a T-shirt at home. Never too late for a tax cut. I do think this is a good thing. But here's the cardinal sin of the Obama administration. The cardinal sin all along has been uncertainty. The uncertainty that they've given business.
Afghanistan.
This should have been done earlier. This should have been done
Healthcare,
sooner.
the oil spill.
Yeah.
Uncertainty is, you're right. Maybe he needs a T-shirt that says that. All right, let's move forward. Because I mentioned that, and David, I don't know if you heard this off the top. Before I even said my own name, I said Andrea's, because she's fiery mad right now. Not mad like angry, but excited.
That's why I'm glad I'm in D.C. and not sitting next to her.
No. But excited over this whole pushback that the Democrats now are giving, and we've got a full screen with this, which is TV fancy for words on the screen, of Nancy Pelosi and some of the reverb that's happening in her own party. You see that this is Representative Jim Matheson of Utah, and he says, there's a growing number of people in the caucus, meaning the Democratic caucus, saying, why is she running for minority leader in the first place? We just got thumped in this election in a major way. I don't know if he said it like that. And act like we can just go back and do the same thing over again. It just seems like a very obvious situation when change is called for, Matheson said.
Oh, please.
Okay, now interesting, because he says that there's a growing number of Democrats against Nancy Pelosi, and that they were shocked, in fact, David and Andrea, to see that she would put her hat in the ring so quickly.
Well, look, Nancy Pelosi is a lot of things, but a dumb woman, she is not.
You wrote a column about this.
Yeah, she's very shrewd. Look, I think this is all symbolic opposition to Nancy Pelosi. Okay? At the end of the day, Nancy Pelosi is very shrewd. She would not announce that she's running for minority leader if she didn't have the votes. I guarantee you that woman has a list of all the members that are going to vote her back.
Haven't we seen that before?
Wow, Andrea is talking for both of us today.
And my larger point is, I'm really not sure. Now, I understand a lot of people don't like her style. I don't really like her style. I don't like her politics, but she is a very effective Speaker of the House. I mean, there are times when I wish she were a conservative, the way that she navigates the House of Representatives and get things through. And I think this call to have her step down is a little bit disingenuous. I mean, Obama ran on an agenda of hope and change, but Harris, he also ran on platforms of universal health care, cap and trade,
and she helped him get some of that.
It is her job as Speaker. No, everyone confuses this. It is her job as Speaker to pass the president's agenda when he is of her own party. That is exactly what Nancy Pelosi did, and she did it very successfully. People say, oh, well, she didn't compromise. Harris, it's not the job.
It's not her job to do that.
The House is not a place of compromise.
So, David, I would ask you this. Why the heck don't Democrats like her then?
Whoa. You put a lot of Democrats in that statement.
Okay,
and
well,
again,
15
we've only heard a few
and
voices.
We haven't even gotten to the dance
and
yet.
a lot of emotion coming off of, some disappointing losses, and a lot of that coming from, half of the Blue Dogs and
right, blah,
those
blah,
that
blah.
remain.
Why don't they like her?
I think she's a, someone that you can point a finger at, rather than, wondering and looking at what they could have done better. They're looking at Nancy Pelosi, and it's almost a piling on effect. I mean, the Republicans spent $68 million on ads just directed at her.
161,000 ads.
68 million, excuse me. was
Yeah.
spent on going after Pelosi through the election. And she's still standing and has the support, I think, of the majority of the caucus, and that will come to bear out in the coming weeks.
Look, yeah, 161,203 ads. Again, that's what
Harris,
the 60
at the end of the
plus
day,
million
unbelievable.
bought.
these Democrats
it's a lot of ads.
These Democrats took those votes. They said, "Oh, she made them do it." Really?
Yeah, but the ads were purchased
Really?
by conservatives and Republicans. I
No,
mean,
no,
that's the thing. It's not like they were bought by people in her own party. So then to suddenly hear Democrats say exactly what you're saying,
But they voted her
we
in.
were strong-armed into voting with her and
Andrew is right.
distancing
Half of the
themselves
Blue Dogs that lost
voted with
seats,
her.
they voted no on health care. And they lost their seats despite going against the Speaker of the House on that vote, and probably others. And so, you know, they set their own path. And again, all politics are local, and you can't pin this all on Nancy Pelosi. And in fact, she's the one that got us the majority in 2006 and steered the ship with the historical legislation
Well, yeah,
that is now behind us.
David, yeah, you make a good